in media, a neighbor's choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornosky. Welcome back to the program. Across the Sunshine State on FM and AM, we join you. Also, worldwide on our podcast online, visit aneighborschoice.com. That's the letter A, neighborschoice.com, to catch all of our exclusive interviews, world-class articles, and essays as we challenge toxic groupthink wherever it lies in all the areas that affect our lives today. So we get into philosophy, we get into economics, we get into nutrition, politics, we get into anthropology and history, we get into medical science. We dive into these things using a skepticism of groupthink, challenging sacred cows, because we understand that sacred cows often are blinding us to solutions, to the truth right under our noses. And we have to be on guard for that. We have to be mindful of that as we seek to make an impact in our world today. And there's a lot of people, if you want to listen to blabber about which politician did what, there's a million programs that are there for you. You've got a million options doing the same parroted thing. You got a million programs out there. If you want to listen to a program that doesn't give you any solutions, doesn't give you anything positive to sink your teeth in and empower you, but rather just keeps the blame game of politics going on indefinitely, there are many programs for that. But if you want to go to the program where we're not going to stay stuck on groupthink, we're going to go forward thinking for ourselves, you've come to the right place. You've come to a neighbor's choice. And that's exciting to know that we have this time together, because freedom is important. And this show is dedicated to pursuing freedom and peace, nonviolence for everyone. A lot of stories going on. Here's a headline in Washington Examiner. California doctors say they've seen more deaths from suicide than coronavirus since lockdowns. So here's an interesting story where, again, we've been saying this from the beginning, that we don't want to have a solution that is so asinine that it actually causes more deaths than it prevents. That's not what we want. We don't want that kind of environment. We want an environment where the solution is actually preventing deaths overall, right? We don't want to have a solution where the cure is killing more people than if we had gone through a more natural, more logical approach to treating a new virus, which would be typically allowing the young to continue going on and then quarantining and keeping the elderly away. That's a logical solution to a virus, right? And we've done the opposite. And the media has lauded politicians in New York and New Jersey and Michigan, all their favorite hotspots. They have lauded them at the same time those politicians did the opposite of anything scientific. They did the opposite. They shoved coronavirus-infected patients into nursing homes. And then they shut down schools and the young kids at the bar and church. You know how stupid that is? That is the dumb, it's almost criminally stupid. Criminally dumb Luddite stuff. That's the kind of stuff you get from a Luddite media, a troglodyte media that doesn't think critically, that thinks only about power, only about sticking their narratives into the discourse to gain power for their cliques. That's it. And they have catastrophic consequences because of their stupidity, their ignoramus approach to dealing with science. These media outlets do nothing to tell the truth about the importance of sunshine. Why? Because sunshine is passé. These people think they're smarter than science. They think they're smarter than the truth. They think they can use their power that's more important than the truth. Let me give you an example. People in these garbage media outlets like the New York Times, they think political power is more efficacious to solving problems than actual scientific-based solutions to health and wellness. So when we talk about who do we put our faith in, right? Who are we going to trust? Faith means trust. Who do we put our trust in? Much of the media puts their trust in the false gods of the state, the false god of power, the false idol of the crowd, of the hive mind that wants to go along to get along, that wants to walk like sheep off of a cliff, to the point where they would rather deny science than relinquish power, right? Because they'd rather believe that if they get their clique in power, if they can get an old, dependable, go along, get along politician like Biden, an empty suit who has carried the water for warmongers and bailout banksters in Wall Street his entire career, a man who has spent more time trying to find a way to incarcerate nonviolent people than almost anybody alive today. A man who has spent all of his time trying to pillage poor people across the world for the value and the benefit of a military-industrial complex that continues to suck all of us dry of our finances and our wealth. They'd rather shill for that guy and do whatever they can to create a narrative in which this guy can be carried over the finish line like Weekend at Bernie's than to tell the truth about things that are very obvious, that you should not be scared of having your kids hang out with other kids. That is a scientifically illiterate position to have, to believe that kids should be cloistered and that Cuomo was a genius for putting COVID-19 patients in with very, very immune-compromised elderly people in nursing homes. You have to be the most stupid, ignorant person to be succumbing to that kind of dumb groupthink. Let's call it what it is. Do not allow the bullies in our media to take the moral high ground. They don't have a moral high ground if they couldn't find one to save their life, because they are so stupefied by power lust. They believe in power more than they believe in science. They don't believe in vitamin D. Why? Because you can't patent it, so it's not cool to talk about. These are lemmings for the establishment. They are lemmings that are telling you every day to surrender to fear, to put a mask on as you hike in a wilderness. I mean, the stupidity. This is the stupid, hysterical groupthink if I've ever seen it. People wearing masks as they hike in the desert. Can you imagine? What are you catching? What virus is out in the desert there? People are staying away from sunshine oftentimes. People are being told, just have a frozen pizza by the media. They're not being told proper nutrition science. They're not being told what are the kinds of things you need to do to keep your immune system strong. Instead, we have this psychopathic fear of eating meat. Meanwhile, we have this total stupid desire to sacrifice our neighbors left and right, to sacrifice human life while we're afraid to eat animal life. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the insanity, that the mental pretzels that the media has contorted itself into? Turn that garbage off. That awful, stinky, outdated, barbaric, brutish, vulgar, nasty hive mentality. We don't want it. We want to keep it away from our families. We're tired of people trading their conscience to use their mouth as an advocate of perpetual war, perpetual sanctions, perpetual bailouts of banks, the perpetual slander of economic freedom in the name of corporatism, in the name of big government. These are not media outlets. These are PR firms for a stinky, crusty status quo. These are PR firms for a stinky, crusty, dying way of thinking. And we cannot shrink back and be afraid to call them out for what they are. Owned by groupthink as they are, they have to be fought with intellectual vigor, with confidence that they are losing history, because you can't hold on to old, outdated, brutish ways of using power when science overwhelmingly shows the stupidity of denying the proper immune system builders in our body found in nutrition, and denying the logic of allowing kids to engage in interactions with one another and keeping elderly people confined and away from viruses if they have immunocompromisation. That's something the media will never tell you the truth about, apparently, because power is more interesting to them than the truth. But A Neighbor's Choice is different. We'll unpack it with more in just a moment, live.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Windshields are all about safety, and Auto Glass America continues to insure yours. Now that we're into phase 2 and more businesses are reopening, we'd like to remind you that if your windshield is damaged and you have qualifying insurance, we'll install a premium quality replacement with a lifetime warranty at no cost to you. Either at home or back at work, we'll come to you with free mobile service and maintain CDC guidelines for social distancing. Plus, you'll get up to $150 cash back for your windshield. 813-96-GLASS. That's 813-96-GLASS.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Lang, board-certified optometric physician and certified nutritional specialist, host of popular talk show Ask the Doctor. I've researched and developed an amazing new omega-3 product that you'll see incredible results with. It's called Fortify Super Omega-3 Max. I had one of the top Norwegian omega-3 research teams in conjunction with myself and Fortify Vitamins aid in the development of this advanced omega-3. This product is the most potent and purest triglyceride form omega-3 in the United States today. Omega-3 is great for all aspects of your health and well-being, especially in this unprecedented, challenging time. I am giving a 25% discount with promo code RADIO during this viral pandemic. Go to my website, fortify.com. That's FORTIFEYE. Remember the EYE in Fortify. That's fortify.com. Enter the promo code RADIO to receive the 25% discount.
Thanks for listening to 1040 WHBO. We've seen unprecedented growth in listening over the last several months. Our ad partners are experiencing great success, and we thank you for supporting the many advertisers on this station. If you own a business or handle the marketing for a business, contact us. We'll get your message across the many media platforms we own. Call 813-250-3883. That's 813-250-3883. Or send us a note. Web at radiogenesis.com. That's web at radiogenesis.com.
Hello, A Neighbor's Choice is back. We're live across FM and AM on radio and primetime I-4 corridor land here in Florida, and podcasts wherever podcasts are sold, YouTube and Facebook. You can find us video streams there. If wherever you're watching, share it. Let people know, because this is the tip of the spear. This program will get bigger and bigger and bigger. We will not stop until we destroy the hive mind that keeps us all shrunken in our humanity. I'm tired of allowing bullies to bully people into conformity, into stupid tyrannical groupthink that allows people to lose out on their potential as individuals, but also to try to deny and harm and socially bully other people because of their skin tone or all this disgusting kind of scapegoat violence that is built into the politically correct hegemony that is ruling or it's not ruling, it's falling apart. It's like a stinky old bloated hippopotamus that is just rancid on the side of the Nile, and it's just, it looks bigger, but it's actually nothing. It's dead. It's going away. And we have to be able to be careful as we navigate these times to make sure that we don't mirror the same kind of petty ugliness that has so often ruled our culture and the elitist folks who have tried to monopolize discourse for so long. We cannot mirror that same stuff. We cannot mirror their lust for power, their lust to control people. They want to control what you drink, control what your light bulb is, control what your energy is, control what you can say, control what you can think, control every little aspect, control who you can hang out with, control what restaurant you can go to, control where you go to church. They want to control everything. This is a diabolical and shrunken, pathetic way of living your life. And we have to speak it clearly, speak it confidently, and say it again and again and again until we create a positive contagion of good ideas, of good confidence that's not afraid of the mob. The mob is nothing. The mob is a bunch of gnats. They have no power in history. They don't have power. They don't have anything. It's all an illusion. Mobs are just paper tigers. There's nothing. Now, if you get in front of it in a direct way, it could be dangerous. But as in terms of a direction of force and energy, mobs don't have any direction. Mobs don't have any agenda. They don't know anything but to tear down and to hurt something that is arbitrarily different from them. So don't take your cues from the mob. The mob is not the adult in the room. Power is not the answer. So the story that's been making the rounds all over today is that Bari Weiss, an opinion editor at the New York Times, resigned today, having been bullied, she said. There was a story in Vice about this, that she's been bullied, that they put an emoji for a axe symbol over her name and terrible things like that. And that's what you can expect when you go into the mob to find answers. The New York Times has been basing their aesthetic on the mob since their inception, basically. The New York Times does nothing but chase after trendy, fashionable garbage. They always are protecting Luddite ways of thinking about the future. They don't talk about low-energy nuclear reaction for clean energy. They don't know anything about that. They don't know. They're just scared. They're conservative, reactionary Luddites over there, by and large. And they have, and you know what? You can say, oh, you're being a little hard on the New York Times. Please be a little easier. Yeah, I'll be easier when they stop using their newspaper to lie and murder people around the world for careless wars. I'll go easy when they stop their sycophantic bloodlust for lying us into a Russian Cold War 2.0, for lying us into Libya, for lying us into Iraq, for lying us into perpetual occupation of Afghanistan. These guys are nothing but imperialist Luddites. Don't give them any dignity. They don't have any dignity. They're a trash blog. Scum blog. It's scummy to try to kill people, my friends, okay? We don't have to be clean about let's be sensitive to this. No, you don't have to be sensitive to New York Times blog losers who use their power and influence to try to get people murdered for no reason. Stop telling us to kill people in Libya, New York Times, you sick freaks. We're tired of you. You got nothing to offer the future. You're garbage. Your stupid little projects where you're trying to position yourselves as the ally of victims is garbage. We see right through it. You ain't got nothing to offer people in real concerns. You don't have nothing to offer to slaves that are in Libya right now because of your stupid trash blog telling people to go off to kill Gaddafi, you sick freaks. You got nothing. So why are we going to listen to you? We're not going to listen to your garbage blog, okay? So, I mean, I'm not concerned with this blog, this trash outlet, this rag that has been the advocate of war, the advocate of occupation of people of color overseas. We're just not going to give them any dignity. They're a garbage outlet that tries to shill for bailouts, for the corruption of our foreign policy, for making a lot of opportunity for cash for the military-industrial complex. This is not an outlet to give any consideration to as a serious thing. So when Bari Weiss resigns because she said it's a toxic environment because she's a liberal and most of the people who have power in the New York Times are these radical, so-called radical, they're corporate communists, okay? They're not radical, they're corporate communists. They're on the same side as McDonald's and mass corporations. They're not edgy. They want you to think they're edgy. And the only reason why they convince some people they're edgy is because they've got billionaires flush with money, creating this, curated perception that they're somehow edgy or avant-garde. They're not. Critical theory is just warmed over garbage corporate communism. It's the jailer to the people's justice. They offer nothing. Do they tell you about no victim, no crime? No, we tell you about no victim, no crime. They don't tell you about that idea. They shill for war. They don't tell you that Libyan lives matter. They don't tell you that Syrian lives matter. They shill for war. And then they tell you that if you don't submit to their abusive, gaslighting, that you're the problem. No, they're bullies. Turn them off. We have to create the media that you want. So many conservatives are so excited to get mentioned in the New York Times. So many folks are so covetous of perceived social status of these so-called institutions like the New York Times that they can't think straight. I saw one of the members of the so-called intellectual dark web say today, we're going to create our own institutions. And I say, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's social status or their institutions. It's not going to get you what you think. Don't imitate the elitist puffery and the fake airs of these dying old bloated hippopotamuses getting cooked because their carcasses is bloated across the Nile River. That's what these media outlets, they look big, but there's no value, there's no energy to them. It's nothing but hidden ugliness masquerading as know-how. Now, I know that there's good folks in these outlets, but I'm talking about the narratives that these outlets keep lying people who are gullible, who don't know how to discern news facts, don't know how to read the news as an opinion sector. It's an opinion section. These folks have been lying these gullible, low-information people into supporting wars for decades, and their time is up. Stop perpetuating mass incarceration, mass police brutality, New York Times. Your days are up. We don't want you anymore. See ya. A Neighbor's Choice will be back.
You know what time of year it is.
Hurricane conditions in the next 36 hours.
You know what hurricanes can do.
Devastating damage expected.
Well, we want you to know, no matter how bad things get,
Power outages. This is life-threatening.
you can stay up to date with the latest information here. Your home for news, talk, and information. And remember, we'll keep an eye on the tropics. You keep an ear on us.
Got batteries in the flashlight.
The all-new News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Yeah, we got our radios.
Florida coronavirus cases still rising along with hospitalizations and deaths. Miami, the new epicenter. Mayor Francis Suarez says he hasn't ruled out the possibility of implementing stricter measures.
We can't rule out the possibility of stay-at-home order. And so, we're analyzing it day in and day out.
to make a decision. But it's not something that I'm going to roll out at this point.
The Trump administration backing down from an immigration and customs enforcement rule change that would have required foreign students to attend classes in person this fall or leave the country. It comes after a growing number of states and schools filed a lawsuit. Students can still attend classes offered online. In Kentucky, authorities say a toddler died inside a hot car after gaining access to the vehicle on her own. It's the 9th child in the U.S. to die in a vehicle due to the heat this year. The new Hot Cars Act passed by the House July 1st. That federal bill would require owners to have affordable technology available to detect the presence of a child inside a car. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Welcome back to the program, A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gronowski, your host. Headline on CBS New York, coronavirus travel advisory. Passengers arriving at New York City airports must fill out health form or face up to $2,000 fine. Oh, good old coercion. That's all they've got. That's the only trick. They can't, Cuomo won't tell you a thing that I've seen. And if you find it, send it to me. I'd love to hear it. But it'd be so obscure, it wouldn't even matter if he makes a passing comment. You won't find a thing from Cuomo or the federal government, the so-called genius experts, that'll tell you a thing about what makes for a good immune system, how ketosis works with that, how healthy natural fats are good for you, for your immune system. They won't tell you that because there's no money in it. These people are owned by special interests and their PR firms for the status quo. Their only thing they like is coercion, control freak, neurotic behavior. Another story I want to tell you about is NPR has a story headline, even in a pandemic, WHO believes that public protests are more important. Does that not tell you what I've been talking about? It's about groupthink and the kind of coercion that groupthink can spill into if you create enough mob mentality, if you create enough herd mentality, that it can spill into political power. That's what's more important than science, right? They don't want you to meet at church. California, they're banning churches again, right? Blocking church services. Not essential. You got 20 people in a church. I guess that's not allowed. I don't know the details. I don't even care. Have nothing to do with California. Sorry if you listen to if you're listening from California, I can't help you. Get out. If your state that you're living in is falling apart, get out if you can. Do the best you can to get out of that place. At some point, you got to let a fool go into its own way, right? You tell a fool once, don't do it this way. You tell it twice, And I know there's fools all over this country, but if it's so congregating that it's just, you have to say, wait a second, maybe this is not a good place to have my family. And I know that's hard for my California friends to think about. But what's harder is what happens when you trust the mob to actually have a break, to put brakes on and their lust for power. It never happens that way. As we talked about in the beginning of the show today, liberal Bari Weiss resigns from New York Times in protest because of the bullying culture. This is a person, Bari Weiss, by the way, who basically is a revolutionary, just a milder version, right? And I remember her attacking Tulsi Gabbard on Joe Rogan's show because she questioned our need to overthrow Syria and spend, billions of dollars to occupy that country. So because of that, she's beyond the pale. So this is what happens with these little trendies, And no offense to her, I don't know her, but, they maybe she's just ignorant, but You'd think if you're going to have a position as an opinion editor, you wouldn't be ignorant about this, but she was just pushing and attacking Tulsi as not acceptable because she does not criticize. She criticizes the war effort so much. So when you live by the trendies, you die by the trendies. You know what I mean? When you live by the approval of the mob will gobble you up. It just eats itself. So it's a trendy thing amongst, liberal Democrats. It's a trendy thing for liberal Democrats to continue to push for war, to push for a Wilsonian foreign policy. It's a trendy thing to push for perpetual occupation of countries like Syria and Libya and Afghanistan. Every time Trump signals a desire to end our presence in Afghanistan, the New York Times and the usual suspects come out like maidens of war merchants and banks or whoever makes money off of this ridiculous 18-year occupation. Good gravy. And you think these folks care about people of color's lives? I mean, goodness gracious. You got millions of people of color in Afghanistan, and every time Trump's like, hey, I think we're done occupying these people of color in Afghanistan, the New York Times says, no. Did you see what we found? We found some cash. Putin put it there. If you pull out, that means you're a traitor. You're with Putin. We're going to impeach you. The heck? What do you have to say about people of color and their lives mattering? You got nothing, New York Times, and all the other little hive mind. I'm using New York Times as a symbol, as an archetype for Luddite, old stinky ideas. Crusty. It's crusty. It's stinky. If you just read these articles, it just stinks. It's nasty. Because it's so fake. It's so obviously McDonald's in its taste. That tastes like a real piece of journalism. Tastes like a garbage, fake margarine, not butter. There's no butter there. It's just garbage. Whatever your analogy is. This is not real leather. This is fake when you read these media outlets. It's trashy. How can you shill for war for so long? Maybe one war. Not one war, right, if you're thinking straight, but maybe you're ignorant and stupid. You get caught up in mimetic groupthink and you want to go for war. Maybe you get it wrong once. But to get it wrong every freaking time, there's a question of whether we should go and invade another country filled with people who've done nothing to harm us. Then you got a problem. You got a stinky trash rag of an outlet. And that's 99% of the media. And the fake right wing that we get is always, basically just imitating the old outdated reactionary left. So there's very little good media out there. That's why I'm doing this show. At some point you say, well, if not me, then who? Because there's so much garbage options out there. You got to say, well, somebody has to put a different discourse into the mix. Somebody's got to tell the truth. Somebody's got to stop being obsessed with stupid stuff. Get to the truth. Give a holistic picture of the problems that we face and how to solve them. Another headline I want to give you attention to is the USA Today says FDA investigates lab as tens of thousands of COVID-19 test results in Florida are questioned. So this is interesting because it says federal regulators are investigating a Texas lab that a Florida hospital chain dropped last week because of delayed and unreliable COVID-19 test results. Advent Health, which has 45 hospitals in 9 states, terminated its Florida contract with Microgen DX due to concerns about the validity of some of the 60,000 tests Microgen has processed for the system because the lab left them at room temperature for days. Goodness gracious. They got sputum over here. Microgen promotes shipping COVID-19 sputum samples through FedEx on its website. Goodness gracious. I mean, you got to imagine how many people are having similar, weird situations here where you get lousy, low quality results, inflating the number of people who are actually, having real encounters with this virus or, real fatal encounters and so forth. And every day the media just stokes that fear machine because they know there's a lot of people that just are too afraid to think for themselves. They'd rather wear a mask in a very, very vast and empty desert for miles and miles on end as they walk, feeling very good about themselves as they get very low oxygen. It is sad, but it's sad. It is funny and sad at the same time because it's amazing, how people lose their human sovereignty over their minds by the magnetic pull to fit in with a groupthink of stupid. They want to be trendy. They want to be cool. They want to have something over somebody else that they can compare themselves to. It's just like the demoniac who, in the story of the Gospels, was used as a collective measuring rod that the community could say, hey, look, we're not that guy. And that's exactly what the left does when they treat people who are not into their corporate communist slogans in the name of perpetual war and incarceration and subjugation of people's economic prosperity. They want to use folks who disagree with the hegemonic narratives of our culture as collective measuring rods by which to say, hey, we're not the Grinch, we're not this person, right? And of course it goes both ways, but who has the power in this culture? The people who have the power of this culture are the ones who more effectively imitate the victim concern of the Gospels. Let me repeat, the people who have the most cultural power in the West are the folks who more effectively imitate the victim concern of the Gospels. That's how you know. So when people always tell me, oh, I'm concerned about, the rise of Trumpian nationalism or whatever, I say, the problem with the Trump thing is, in terms of being concerned about it as a real long-lasting threat, is that the Trump phenomenon was largely like a AC/DC reunion tour, packed out a lot of stadiums, but that's not got a long shelf life, The idea of going back to that kind of, 1950s, approach to Americana, JFK style Americana it's got its, there's some truth maybe in there, but largely the whole package is doomed to be a reunion tour at best. So you got to go better. You got to go bigger. You got to go more bolder, right? When I hear the Trump administration saying, get everybody back into government school, I'm saying that's an outdated idea. That's JFK 1950s stuff. We don't want that. We want to go to the future. We don't want, I understand in the short term, I get the political narrative there. You want to have people dropping their kids off at government daycare so that everybody can get back to work, pay their bills, not have an economic collapse quickly, right? I get that. But in the long term, the big picture, I'm not thinking about Trump's election. I'm thinking about my grandkids, okay? I don't care about, you got a million parrots out there in media who care about Trump's election, and everything they're going to tell you about the news is going to be filtered into getting a guy elected in a few months. That's it. I'm thinking about how our grandkids are going to be. So I'm thinking of a bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is we need to take these opportunities when the establishment overplays their hand in their fear game to get out of the schools, to go to alternatives where our kids can be dignified. They can have a diversity of thought. They can learn real stuff like how to balance a checkbook, how to stay out of debt, how to understand history, how to understand banking, how to understand pricing, how to understand science, how to question dogmas of science so that they're not stupidly parroting something like settled science. This is so dumb and Luddite. I can't believe it. I'm going to keep using that word because it's so clean. It just fits. Just fits right there. This idea that people think that science is something about a settled dogma. So ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff you get when you send your kid to a government daycare for most of their childhood and then send them off to government nightclubs called universities so they can get social status, right? So let's use these opportunities when the establishment, owned by fear and operating through fear, scare people away from their government schools. That's the heart of their entire project. We don't want to push for people to return to government schools. We want them to opt out and to demand a refund, to demand their taxes return to their rightful ownership back to their own family so that they can use their money, get rid of those taxes for a government school, pull the kids out of it, and use that money to invest in their kids' real education so they can think for themselves, so they can have a diversity of thought experience, and that they can build self-reliance and critical thinking skills. That's what we need to use. Be thoughtful. Be nimble. And don't slink away into old paradigms of education. Use this moment now to educate your kids outside of government groupthink. A Neighbor's Choice will be back.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Bucks fans, here's a chance of a lifetime. For just $10, you can enter the ultimate raffle for the greatest game day experience ever. And it's all to benefit the Allstott Family Foundation and the Light Foundation. Mike Allstott and three-time Super Bowl champion Matt Light are inviting you to the Bucks Saints game Sunday night, November 8th. It all starts with dinner with Matt and his lovely wife Susie at Island Way Grill the night before. On game day, you get 2 premium tickets, pre-game field passes, a tailgate party with Mike and Matt and their rowdy friends, 2 nights at the Clearwater Beach Hilton, a post-game meet and greet with Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the Gronk, and the A-Train. Plus, you'll get autographed jerseys from all 4, Brady, Brees, Gronk, and Allstott. A package like this went for $800,000, but you can get in for just $10. To enter, go to GameDayTampa.com. That's GameDayTampa.com. $10 gets you in. GameDayTampa.com.
Hi, this is Cheryl with Fountain View Estates, right here in beautiful Tampa Bay. I'm the sales manager at this premier manufactured home retirement resort. We have wonderful residents that enjoy spacious designer homes with all the amenities of a resort. At Fountain View Estates, we have 2 separate resort-style swimming pools, a large 16-person jacuzzi, a ballroom floor for entertaining and dancing, social clubs and fitness center, as well as activity classes. You will enjoy your new friends who have the same interests as you at Fountain View Estates. These homes are listed under $120,000. Yes, under $120,000. Right now, there is no payment until September. That's right, no payment until September. I only have 7 left as of the time of this recording. Call me, Cheryl, at 844-515-3903 or Google Fountain View Estates Tampa. Send me a message for a private tour. That's Fountain View Estates in Tampa, the area's premier manufactured home retirement resort. Living like Florida is meant to be.
The surest way to work up a crusade in favor of some good cause is to promise people they will have a chance of maltreating someone, to be able to destroy with good conscience, to be able to behave badly and call your bad behavior righteous indignation. This is the height of psychological luxury, the most delicious of moral treats. That's Huxley from Chrome Yellow. So you got to wonder if that is what's going on in our trendy little fashionistas and their righteous indignation. To promise people that they will have they'll have the chance to maltreat someone else, to be able to destroy with good conscience, to be able to behave badly and call your bad behavior righteous indignation. That is a delicious moral treat for people. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. And we all have it. We all have the proclivity to find it. But you know what? I'm going to side with folks who care about the dignity of human persons. That's always a safe bet morally, not in a self-righteous way, because if you understand that the dignity of human person rests on the concept that we're all fallen, right? If you don't believe that human beings are all universally fallen and prone to scapegoating and envy and covetousness and pride and egoism, if you don't believe that, you create the most monstrous, disgusting displays of tyranny and systemic oppression that one can imagine. But when you put the human person as sacred, not as a joke, not as a Hallmark card, like some kind of trivial sacred, but truly sacred in the truest sense, that you cannot deny people's free will and call yourself a human. You're shrinking away from what it means to be a human when you try to deny people's free will. Because to have free will is to be made in the image of God, and to destroy someone else's free will, to try to stop them from exercising their free will, is to destroy the image of God in them and in yourself. It's to try to graffiti on the image of God. Do you follow? If you're trying to destroy people's free will, and you come up with the most moral justifications you can, destroy people's free will for their economic liberty, destroy people's free will for their educational liberty, destroy people's free will for their ability to start a business, worship, to speak, to innovate, to always try to distort and destroy people's free will, is to assault the image of God itself, to try to graffiti, to spray paint over the glorious image of God that is found in every human person. That doesn't mean we're islands unto ourselves, and that's the stupid mistake that some people on the right make, is they think if you're fighting for economic liberty and for personal liberty and for the respect of the human person, therefore you're a rugged individualist or something where you don't understand how, families and so forth shape the individual. No, you don't have to assume that. I don't even understand where the argument even comes from. You can have a critique of consumerism, materialism, and individual self-absorption and still believe that you shouldn't lay a finger on a human person, because free will is the presence and a critical component of the image of God in every person. And liberty is an extension of that free will. Liberty is not just liberty from external tyranny, which we're facing and most of the world battles with, but it's also liberty from internal tyranny, which is the egoism that is wrapped up with the rise of a totalitarian state. There's this weird relationship that the more we worship our individual selves, thinking that we're the originators of our desires and our passions, and that we are somehow more self-righteous than others, and that we are somehow less fallen than others, There's this weird correlation between that individual self-absorption and the rise of collectivism, which is an attack on the individual person. It's an interesting relationship. And we need the opposite. We need humility, recognizing that we're fallen, each of us individually, and humility recognizing that so much of the things that we think we want are just copied desires from those around us. But at the same time, we need personal liberty so as to allow people to exercise the image of God in them, which is free will. And free will requires personal improvement, personal dying to the flesh, as well as self-sacrifice in the things that we see with our neighbor. Because a lot of us are scared of our neighbor having freedom, so we want to take that away. We want to take people's economic liberty away because we're jealous if they're richer than us. We want to take away people's right to, make mistakes and to sin because we're afraid that if they're allowed to enjoy a vice or something, that somehow that makes us jealous and want it too, right? So we're afraid of allowing people to have their free will because we think that it's going to end up in a situation where we lose out. We're jealous. And that jealousy overrides our moral conscience that tells us not to interfere with people's free will and their freedom. Jealousy is like a drug. It clouds our moral sensibilities, makes us act like brutes. People trying to get people arrested for running their business, trying to keep their family alive. At the same time, they're pushing for ignorance and narratives. Ignorance that somehow we should laud the fools who shoved COVID-19 infected patients in with nursing homes. Just can't do that. You cannot hold that level of insanity and maintain yourself. You're going to fall apart. You can't go around locking people up because they go to church trying to cite people and steal their money or threaten them with imprisonment, and at the same time push and laud and champion silly folks who send people into nursing homes with a vicious virus with 90-year-old people. Crazy. But we can paint a story of positivity, self-reliance, peace. Let's get to work. Let's challenge the complacency. Get up off of your couch. Get up off of your paralyzed fear, and let's do something different. Let's do something special. Let's do something historical. Let's love our neighbors as ourselves. Let's desire mercy, not sacrifice. I'm David Bernowski. Godspeed.